On a rain-polished night in late October, the 2340 Coastal Service rolled through miles of darkness like a thought no one wanted to finish. The conductor walked the aisle with his handheld scanner and his priestly patience. The car was half empty. Shift workers, night owls, a woman in a red coat who slept like someone finally allowed to. Mara Belden sat by the window, forehead against glass, counting the black gaps between lit villages. 31. 32. She knew the timetable by heart. Redmarsh, Kestrel Lane, Dunridge, then East Hale. She had made this trip home so often, the train had learned her gait. Between Dunridge and East Hale, the world should be fields. Instead, the rails hummed a note she didn't know, and the train began to slow. Mara glanced at the overhead map. No stop here, no white dot. Yet the PA chimed, gentle, obedient. Next station, dash. Static sang. The display above the door flickered. Letters tried to form a name and failed. The train eased into a platform gleaming with rain. The conductor's voice was steady, but too steady. We appear to be making an unscheduled stop. Please remain on board. On the platform, a sign waited. It looked new, not vandalized, not weary. White enamel, black lettering. But the rain sheeted over it just so, and the letters refused to resolve. Mara stood to get a better angle. Her phone lost signal with a decisive little death. The doors sighed open. A wind like a polite hand touched the back of her neck. She stepped out. The platform smelled of wet stone and something sweeter, like oranges the day before they rot. Beyond the slick yellow line, the station stretched into fog. A ticket hall with old-world glass, a clock with no hands, a bench with one damp newspaper. Tomorrow's date. The sign cleared as the rain changed direction. Nowhere. The train doors slid shut behind her. The conductor stared at Mara through the glass, mouth a tiny O, scanning gun slack at his side. The train pulled away. The rain stopped. The clock with no hands started to tick. In the ticket hall, a man dozed behind a varnished counter labeled Information/Lost Property. His cap sat just wrong on his head, too crisp for the century. A brass bell winked beside a ledger. Mara tapped the bell. It didn't ring so much as occur. The man woke as if from a short, deep life. "Good evening," he said, cheerful and wrong. "Welcome to nowhere. What have you lost?" "Signal," she said, lifting her dead phone. "My train. Possibly my mind." He smiled, without mockery. "We can help with 2 of those. I need to get to East Hale," she said. "My mother." She stopped. News that waited could wait harder. "What is this place? Is this some Heritage Line stunt?" "Nothing so enterprising." He pushed the heavy ledger toward her. "Name?" She hesitated. "Mara Belden." He opened the book to a page that already had Mara Belden written at the top in a careful hand that wasn't hers. Below, a list in a different ink. 1 timetable, certainty. 1 signal, reception. 1 promise, kept badly. 1 brother, Theo, last seen 2009. Her stomach dropped. "That's not... Who wrote that?" He tapped the word promise with a neat fingernail. We inventory what people misplace on the way here. Helps with returns. I didn't misplace, she swallowed the rest. There's no such station as nowhere. Not on your map, he said kindly. Platforms are where trains stop. Stations are where story stops. We're the latter. A thin woman in a station coat shuffled in from a side door with a mop that had the air of a weapon. She glanced at Mara, not unkindly, and said to the man, "We've a wet patch by track B again." Also, the bell rang twice. "Two bells?" the man said, brightening. "Someone found their name." The woman's mouth lifted. Or lost it. Mara put both palms on the counter. "How do I leave?" "Everyone leaves," he said. "When they're ready to travel light. Next crossing in," he checked a clock that did not display time so much as permission. 2 hours. In the meantime, you can look for what you lost. Most people do. "I didn't lose my brother here," Mara said. "Not here," he agreed. "But everything lost passes through. That's the arrangement." Something metallic clinked behind him. He bent, rummaged, and came up holding a small plastic card in a cracked wallet sleeve. He slid it onto the counter. A library card, laminated in a hurry. Theo Belden. A childish signature that tried to be adult. Mara's breath made her chest hurt. "Where did you get that?" "We keep a few breadcrumbs," he said, "for those who need a trail." The mop woman tilted his head. "If she's looking for a boy, send her to track D. The echoes have been tidy tonight." "Tidy is nice," he said. To Mara, "Follow the black line to the far platform. Don't step onto the rails. Don't read the posters out loud. If you hear your name in your own voice, look at your shoes and keep walking. I want to speak to whoever runs this place." "You are," he said gently, "and you aren't. Everything here is both." "Do you have a name?" Mara asked. He considered. "Call me Evan." "Everyone does." "And you?" she asked the mop woman. "Agnes," she said. "When I remember." Mara slid the library card into her jacket like a talisman. "If my train comes back and I'm not here?" "It won't," Evan said. "Not until you're lighter." 2 hours, Agnes added, as if she'd already done the math of Mara's heart. "Bring back only what you can carry." "Like what?" "Seconds," Agnes said. "We travel in them." Track D lived at the far end of a footbridge that refused to be the same length twice. Mara crossed with the unshowy courage of women who have learned to keep going after men go. The platform shelters were old-fashioned ironwork with glass panes freckled by ancient rain. Posters in gold frames lined the wall, bright, beautiful, not quite modern. Fares to places that never were. Return tickets, conditions apply, have your name ready at the barrier. She kept her eyes down. Shoes, tile, the black line. She almost made it. Halfway along the platform, a poster had been vandalized with a child's felt tip, little stars in the margins, and a smile drawn on a crescent moon. Her eye flicked up before she could stop it. "Lost?" it asked, in that condensed rail font that makes everything sound reasonable. "Tell us your name, and we'll tell you your stop." A voice like hers said, "Mara." She stared at her shoes so hard, the world went vertiginous. Her hands shook. Air came in wrong. She counted the rivets in the nearest girder until her throat loosened. At the end of the platform, the fog breathed. A perfect child's whistle sounded once. A small figure stood a few yards beyond the yellow line. Back to her. Raincoat hood up. The figure swung a leg as if testing balance on an unseen curb. "Theo?" Mara said. The figure turned. Not Theo. Too small, too thin, but a boy with eyes like a winter morning. He lifted 2 fingers in a salute. "You dropped something," he said, and pointed to the tracks. On the ballast between the rails, half buried, lay a scrap of paper, water-wrinkled but legible. She crouched at the edge. The rails hummed a warning she didn't yet understand. The paper was a page from a notebook. Her notebook. Her handwriting. "Theo, if you come back, I'll..." The sentence ended in a tear. She remembered ripping that page out in fury and guilt, binning it, telling herself she would stop bargaining with air. How had it crossed to here? "Don't go down," the boy said pleasantly. "If you touch the rail, you'll hear the wrong train." What's the wrong train? The one for people who can't stop listening. She looked up. The boy had moved closer without moving. "Who are you?" "Porter," he said, as if it were a job and a name, both. "I carry seconds. You can borrow one if you like." "I don't need." He reached into his coat and offered her a tiny glass sphere, no bigger than a cherry, warm against his palm. Inside, 2 children jumping waves at East Hale Beach, a kite snapping above, a woman's laugh in the foreground, their mother's, alive and careless. The sphere smelled like salt, and the specific sunscreen they'd used that year, the one that left ghostly white on brown skin. Mara's throat closed so fast it hurt. She reached and stopped. The boy smiled without cruelty and put the second away. "Good train sense," he said. "You can look, but mind your hands." "Have you seen my brother?" she asked. He'd be 27 now. Porter shrugged with one shoulder. "Names blur here. Ages lie. But I've seen the idea of him. He runs ahead and looks back only once." The phrase made the world incline. "That's our note on his file." He pointed into the fog beyond the end of the platform, to a footpath that led to a wooden gate marked "Crossing." "You want the now and then line." "What is that?" "Trains that come when they shouldn't," he said. "You can flag one if you pay the fare." "I don't have any money." "Money isn't the fare," he said, amused. "Didn't you read the posters?" She closed her eyes and let herself be the kind of person who follows a child into fog. "What's the fare?" "Say your name the way you wish it had been said," Porter said, and bounded away, light as a gram of music. The crossing was a narrow plank bridge over 2 useless rails, the kind of country footpath where local teenagers dare each other to spit for distance. A red lamp on a post blinked every now and then, not to signal, but to remember. Mara stood before the little gate and thought of all the ways her name had been said over the years. Mara, as in don't be difficult. Mara, as in you're the strong one. Mara, as in I'm proud of you. Too rare, bright as a found coin. She tried them on in her head, like old coats, and did not step through. "What do you want to be called?" The thought came like a suggestion from someone she trusted once and hadn't seen in years. She licked rain from her lip and whispered, "Mara, as if I deserved to arrive." The lamp went steady. The gate unlocked itself. Beyond, the fog thinned. A narrow platform appeared, no more than a railed edge with a sign in that same black rail type, "Now and Then." Beneath, someone had written, Ask nicely in pencil and been ignored by weather. A train eased out of nothing. 2 carriages, cream and green, old enough to have fans on the ceiling and ashtrays in the armrests. Its headlamps glowed the color of tea. No driver, no passengers. It sighed to a stop as if pleased to see her. "East Hale," she said, feeling foolish. The carriage lamp blinked twice. The doors hissed. On the step, a conductor waited. No face under the cap, just rain. He held out a punch. Mara boarded. Inside smelled of coal that hadn't burned in decades, and foxed paperbacks. The seats were the kind that forgave you for crying. On the little brass table by the window lay a ticket already printed. From now to then. Fare, the sound you didn't make. She ran a thumb over the words. "I don't." The conductor bent as if to offer privacy. Mara set her palm flat on the ticket. She remembered the hospital room 2 summers ago. Her mother staring at the window as if East Hale lay on the other side, instead of a car park and a vending machine. Mara had sat all night, counting breaths, refusing to cry in case it called something. When the monitor went flat, she had made no sound at all. The silence had kept happening. She exhaled that held-back noise into the paper. It took. The ticket warmed under her hand, like a small animal alive. The train moved. It did not travel so much as reassemble the world. The view slid like a new sheet made on an old bed. Rain turned to seaside drizzle. Night softened to that between hour before dawn admits it's here. The glass reflected not her face, but a younger one, 13, sunburnt, braces, wild. Theo sat across from her, feet on seat, dirty trainers, shark-tooth necklace, grin like a sunrise does when it's showing off. He winked at her. The train rang its bell once, a note pulled from a museum, and stopped. The doors opened on East Hale, Platform 2, summer a dozen years ago. Sun on metal, gulls with opinions, their mother on the bench, reading, alive in that casual way the living are. Mara did not move. The conductor waited. "Is this real?" she asked. The conductor turned the punch so its polished back faced her. For a heartbeat, it reflected a completely ordinary woman on a not-quite-ordinary train. "It's a connection," said a voice behind her. Evan, from the station, sitting 2 rows back where she'd swear he hadn't been. "Not a reunion. Be precise." "What happens if I step out?" "You buy a return," he said. "We don't recommend it." She swallowed. "Can I call to them?" "You can," he said, "but use the right name." Mara stood. The platform smelled like hot rails and vinegar crisps and her own childhood. She put a hand to the doorframe and leaned. Just enough that physics had to make a choice. "Theo," she called. Not like a warning, not like a scold, but like a greeting to someone who belongs at your side. He looked up. His grin stuttered. For a second, one honest, unrepeatable second, he saw her. All the years in her face, the pain and the muscle built over it. He opened his mouth. The train doors closed. Mara folded, as if the air had collapsed. Evan's hand met her shoulder. Not intrusive. "Connections are brief," he said softly. "That's why they work." Did he know me?" "He will," Evan said, "which is the same thing here." The train sighed and reversed the world. Rain returned. Night regained its job. They slid back into nowhere. "You can take one more line," Evan said as she stood. "There's time, if you want to try again." "What line?" "The unsaid," he said. "But the fare's heavier." "What is it?" "Truth," he said. "Paid forward." The unsaid platform was just a chalk mark on the floor of an unused waiting room. A circle with a gap and the word "mind" written in a station hand, which turned it into a gentle order. A single bulb hung from a long wire, swaying more than air warranted. Agnes met her there with a tin of mints and a kindness that made Mara think of women who hold hair back over sinks. "You did well," Agnes said. "Most people jump." "I wanted to. Wanting isn't doing," Agnes said. "Open that." Inside the tin lay folded slivers of paper, each with a word. Sorry, stay, enough, help, no. Agnes chose none of them. She handed Mara a blank slip and a pencil the length of a thumb. "Write what you never said," Agnes said. "Then say it, out loud, once. Don't look up." Mara stared at the blank like it might confess her to herself. Then she wrote, in shaky block letters, a sentence she had rehearsed at 13 and 15 and 27 and never delivered. "I should have watched you better, and you should have let me. And I forgive you, and I forgive me." Her mouth fought it. Her throat tried to be smarter. She said it anyway. The bulb steadied. Somewhere in the station, the handless clock ticked louder, like someone walking toward them down a hall. "You've paid," Agnes said gently. "Now board." A door Mara hadn't noticed opened to a carriage even older than the Now and Then. Wooden seats, frosted glass, adverts for soap that saved marriages. A paper sign in the window read, "Unsaid, direct." She sat. She held the slip of paper like a sacrament. The train barely moved. It just decided to be elsewhere. The carriage filled with people who were not people. Shapes occupied by attention. Voices gathered, all mid-sentence, all confessing, all stuck on the syllable before the one that mattered. At the far end, a boy stood alone, head down. Theo, older than summer, younger than grief, wearing the world like a coat borrowed from an adult. He didn't look up. He didn't seem to see her. Mara stepped forward, feet learning a hesitation that belonged to platforms between things. She stopped at an invisible line and said, clearly and once, the sentence she had written. Theo flinched as if she had cut him loose from a net. He lifted his head. His eyes were her eyes. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay." The train emptied itself like a held breath finally exhaled. The paper in Mara's hand burned cold and dissolved like sugar in tea. She stood alone. The carriage smelled like dust after rain. The door opened onto the nowhere platform. Evan waited, hat in his hands. Agnes, mop like a halberd. "Did it work?" Mara asked. Her voice had the tremble of metal cooling. "Some doors open only after you walk away," Evan said. "We'll know at the crossing." Mara looked at the handless clock. She could feel the time rather than see it. It was almost permission. "What happens if I don't lighten?" she asked. "You miss your train," Agnes said. "And the next, and the next. If you stay past dawn, you learn the timetables by heart in a language that doesn't save you. We try not to let that happen." "Do people choose to stay?" Evan's smile tilted, Some travelers like platforms better than destinations. Do you? We work here, Agnes said, and did not answer the question. The PA chimed. This time the voice was all the way human. Now approaching. Eastbound service to everywhere that's left. Mara tightened her hand around Theo's library card. I'm ready. Evan inclined his head. Then go to track A. When you see your stop, ring the bell. What bell? You'll know it, Agnes said. It knows you. Mara ran. On track A, the 2340 coastal service slid in, itself again, its windows full of the ordinary, which shone like new coins. The display above the door said, East Hail, without flinching. The conductor saw her and sagged with relief, so pure it made Mara cry. She stepped aboard. As the doors closed, somewhere on the platform a bell rang once, clear as truth. She didn't look back. The train pulled out. Signal returned to her phone, like a dog home late and unapologetic. A text from her mother bloomed. Are you close? I kept soup warm. Mara laughed once, helpless, a sound she didn't let the night keep. She pressed her forehead to the glass and watched the dark go by, stitched again by lit villages. At the boundary, where the rails of now and the rails of then lost their ambiguity, a small figure stood on the embankment and lifted a hand. Porter. He mouthed something she knew without hearing. Mind the gap. She nodded, because she finally had. The train ran on. Somewhere, in a place that does not draw itself on maps, a sign gleamed briefly in rain. Nowhere. And below it, in the tidy hand of someone who cares about passengers, we keep what you're ready to return. Silence. Mara sat with the library card pressed against her palm, the imprint digging into her skin as if trying to stay. The coastal service hummed beneath her feet like it had never faltered. People dozed. Headphones bled tinny music. A child stirred in sleep. All normal, except the ticket in her pocket. When she pulled it free, the paper was not ordinary. The stamp across its surface, nowhere, pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. And below, in neat conductor's ink, one more line had appeared. Return pending. Her throat closed. No, she whispered too harshly. No more returns. The man across the aisle looked at her strangely, then back to his phone. The train clattered on, ignorant, but the ticket burned cold in her hand. When she tried to tear it, the paper refused. The conductor walked past with his scanner, paused as if to check her stub, and his hand passed through her shoulder. He never looked down. The world tilted. She was still on the train, but the train was also still in nowhere. The train pulled into East Hale Station. The PA declared it plainly. This stop is East Hale. Doors opening. Mara rose, heart hammering, and stepped off. The familiar station smell hit her. Coffee from the kiosk, diesel tang, salt air beyond. It was her stop. Home. But the clock above the concourse read 03:17. Wrong by 4 hours. The kiosk shutters rattled in a wind she couldn't feel. The platform was empty. On a bench lay a folded paper. She lifted it with stiff fingers. Theo Belden, return ticket. The date was tomorrow. Her knees went weak. A voice spoke at her shoulder. You can claim it, or you can cancel it. That's what nowhere offers. She turned. Evan leaned against the pillar, hat pulled low. But his outline shimmered, as though not fully here. You carried too much back with you. Time doesn't like that. It wants balance. What happens if I cancel? Mara's voice cracked. You stay, he goes. And if I claim, you go. He stays. Her fingers tightened around the slip. At the barrier, a lone machine waited, glowing green. Its screen displayed her name, Mara Belden. Beneath, tap to confirm exit. She lifted the card, trembling. The machine speaker whispered, Say it. Say who you are. She closed her eyes. Mara Belden. The machine beeped. Then, impossibly, the letters rewrote themselves. Theo Belden. Her breath vanished. The barrier clicked open. Beyond, on the concourse, a tall figure waited. Blurred, familiar. Her brother. His outline looked older now. His hair wrong, but his smile was still his. He lifted a hand in greeting. You came. Her fingers shook around the card. It was hers. His. Both. The PA chimed. Its voice was not mechanical. It was Agnes. Final service departing. Passengers must choose. We keep only what you return. The rails below hummed in two directions at once. Behind her, the coastal service waited. Doors opened to a future that might hold soup and her mother's relief. Ahead, Theo's figure stood, waiting at a station that should not exist. The ticket in her hand glowed. Return pending. Her pulse roared. She stepped forward, and the bell rang once. Impossibly loud, shaking her bones. The card dissolved. Theo's figure wavered, then steadied. He stood solid, real, before her. His eyes wide, stunned. The PA whispered the last line, gentle, final. Mind the gap. Mara caught him as the station dissolved into rain, into East Hale at last, into the real world. The train behind her pulled away. The sign above flickered once, then died. Nowhere was gone, but the bell kept echoing in her chest.